Canadian rock singer Kim Mitchell said it best in his most known song: "Summertime would not be complete without cracking open a cold soft drink and enjoying the refreshment they bring on the long, hot afternoons of summer." In Yorkton, there was once a place in town that created its own tasty beverages and was one of the most unique businesses in the community.
I'm Hayden DeGrow, and I'm the Culture and Heritage Specialist for the City of Yorkton. I love learning history, and teaching people about Yorkton's past is a proud part of my job. Join me as I highlight fascinating people, places, and events from Yorkton's history and take you where these places can be found today. This is Yorkton Retold.
In the 1910s, a new movement was truly beginning to gain ground in pop culture at the time. The same movement that would lead to the Prohibition era in Saskatchewan. That movement was called the Temperance Movement, and its main goal was to end what was seen as the damaging effects that alcohol was placing on society. While bar owners like Yorkton's notorious Harry Brothman found a way to get around the new laws and societal mindset, new businesses embraced them, leading to a whole new industry: soda pop. In Yorkton, a man by the name of W.J. Pahal founded a new soda company in 1912, naming it after himself. Pahal's Beverages Limited built its bottling plant along Agricultural Avenue, a street that was once opening up as a workers' center. As we can see in these views, the original building was a simple, square, wooden structure, located on a street that was bursting with activity. Within the building, water, natural flavors, sugar, preservatives, and natural colors were mixed together and carbonated into the sodas that became a staple for Yorkton's recreation. To spread that recreation, Pahals offered a great deal of different flavors for their beverages. As we can see in these photos, customers could have chosen from lemon soda, lemon sour, crushed orange, orange kissed, and black cherry, as well as classics like cola and ginger ale. Just like every other soda company, Pahals kept their beverages in their own customized glass bottles. Pahal hired many people to its plant. We can see the staff in this photo from 1936, along with their workplace canine mascot. These men not only created the pop, but also delivered it. The fleet of trucks that we see in front of the plant in this photo are all owned by Pahals to drive the full bottles out to various shops and restaurants in the area. Meanwhile, the empty bottles that were returned were brought back to the plant, sterilized, and recycled back into the system. At the time, pop was seen as the coolest beverage on the market, and stores like pharmacies and mom and pop shops were the big sellers of the product. Two of the biggest businesses in Yorkton that offered Pahal's signature beverages were located right around this intersection. Where this gym now stands once was Stag's Billiards, a very popular establishment for men in Yorkton. As we can see in this old photo, Stag's occupied a massive part of the lot here. Within those old walls, the bar had one of the only 3 soda fountains in the city, with popular soft drinks like Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, and Canada Dry Ginger Ale on tap. Adding to this variety were the multiple flavors that Pahals were putting out. In addition, the bottled versions were also on sale here, allowing patrons to take home some of the good flavor. Across the street, another business with connections to Stag's was Patrick's Drugstore. Just like Stag's, they offered pop both on a soda fountain as well as in bottles. Just 2 years into Pahal's business, things changed. As the First World War raged, Pahals had to add a levy on top of their price of their beverages. Before this, the beverages were generally 5 cents a bottle, but this new tax added 10 cents to the price, effectively tripling the original price. This, and the fact that many of its staff enlisted in the war effort, caused production to slow down during the 1910s. When the war ended, the tax was lifted, but the war effort had caused inflation in Canada, which meant that prices for the beverages would also have to go up no matter what. Pahals knew, though, they needed to re-establish themselves and made a clever change that allowed them to keep their pre-war prices. The plant calculated how to shrink their bottles just enough to match their original 5-cent prices, but keep up with the inflation. This kept on for years, making Pahals cheaper and therefore more popular to the general consumer. Another way that Pahals expanded itself was to tap into product lines that were not carbonated. In 1931, the company decided to release bottled chocolate malted. To promote this, Pahals partnered with Frank Willard, the author of a famous and long-running comic strip called Moon Mullins. Willard gave Pahals permission to use the name of his character K.O. for the milkshakes. K.O., being the title character's cynical and plain-spoken little brother, was an iconic part of the series and was well known even in Yorkton. The milkshake line's slogan became "It's a Knockout," a play on K.O.'s name in its reference to boxing, which was a theme in the comic strip. With all of this, the line was immediately successful and allowed a somewhat healthier option for consumers. Just like in the First World War, though, the Second World War heavily affected Pahals beverages. With the government's strict control of food rationing during the conflict, output from the plant was restricted deeply. Even after the conflict ended, the rebuilding of Europe kept the output of Pahals less than their capacity. During this time, the plant signed a contract with Coca-Cola to begin bottling and distributing the Giant's products in Yorkton. Though they were still allowed to produce their own products, things were beginning to get squeezed in the old building, especially as wartime restrictions began to lift. With this, Pahals decided to then move. In fact, their solution was quite simple. Right here across the street from the original building, a pair of larger lots became available, and the company built a larger plant. As we see in this old photo from 1956, the new building allowed Pahals to manufacture both its own products and Coca-Cola's. Though they had to advertise their Giant Partners logo on every one of their vehicles, Pahals returned to popularity after the war. Pahals had returned to such popularity, in fact, that when Yorkton helped celebrate Saskatchewan's Golden Jubilee in 1955, the Yorkton Enterprise featured the business in a full spread in the middle of the celebratory newspaper. On this spread, we can see a series of photos gathered by the paper that showcase how Pahals has evolved over its then 43-year history. This shows that Pahals had become a massive business in Yorkton. Other ways the bottling plant sent out its beverages were as unique as Yorkton itself. Looking at this photo, we can see three different things in the repertoire of Pahals products. The bottle on the left is an example of what the original bottles and labels looked like, with this one showing crushed orange beverage. This particular label names the company as the Yorkton Bottling Company, which was a brand name of Pahals for the very early years of the business. The bottle on the right shows the size of the bottles that Pahals put out after the First World War to keep its prices down. However, the focus of this photo is the tray in the background. We can see a better view of this tray in this other photo, highlighting a second identical tray. This tray, which was created in the 1940s, was used by bars and restaurants such as Stag's to serve the famous beverages to customers. It features the name of the company, the image of the original bottling plant, and a description that Pahals were the pioneer bottlers in Yorkton. Today, trays like this are difficult to find as they are only used at places that sold Pahals. Unfortunately, nothing lasts forever. Serious changes came to Pahals in the 1960s, with more later on. In the early 60s, the founder of the company, W. J. Pahal, passed away, leaving the company in the hands of his son. This sadly did not last past the decade, and Pahals was sold to P.A. Bottlers Limited, a company that also was a distributor of Coca-Cola products. Unfortunately, the bottling business was changing rapidly at the time. Coca-Cola was beginning to simplify their businesses, and new developments were helping them with this. A massive rise in highway traffic, coupled with the invention of refrigerated truck trailers, allowed Coke to recreate their products in more concentrated areas and deliver them to wider areas. This meant that Pahals was no longer able to compete with Pepsi and Coke to sell products. In the 1970s, Pahals Beverages Limited closed up shop, ending more than 60 years of production. But this wasn't the end of pop production in Yorkton. Winnipeg-based company Pick-a-Pop bought up the now vacant plant on Agricultural Avenue to help boost their production and spread it into Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, Pick-a-Pop also fell out of favor after its signature small bottles, which also made Pahals famous, were replaced by 2-liter plastic bottles and by supermarket store brands. These all combined to the ultimate demise of the bottling plant in Yorkton. While Pick-a-Pop can still be bought today, it is no longer produced in Yorkton. In the early 2000s, the building was demolished entirely, with nothing coming to replace it. Now, I can hear a few of you wondering, wait, if Pahals was the Coca-Cola distributor, where was Pepsi in Yorkton? Well, believe it or not, they were right here on South Front Street. As we turn back the clock and look at this 2009 shot of this very building, we can see what it looked like with Pepsi. While this building didn't bottle Pepsi products, it did operate as a storage warehouse and distribution center for the company. While this building actually did survive past Pahals and even Pick-a-Pop in Yorkton, it closed down with Pepsi in the 2010s as the company also concentrated its own facilities in Saskatchewan. Today, the building houses TA Foods as its own warehouse. Though Pahals no longer exists and that Yorkton no longer has a pop producer within its city limits, the company's impact is still significant. Today, many people alive during its production time can reminisce about the quality of Pahals products. On top of that, antiques and collectibles associated with the company, from bottles to trays to cases, have become quite valuable as they are unique and, like I said, with the tray, difficult to find. Pahals is one of Yorkton's most famous businesses and is widely appreciated by older citizens. Now, if you don't mind, after all this talking, I think I need a pop.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. See you next time, history buffs.